You might not immediately associate the likes of Inspector Abberline, Sir Robert Anderson, Sir Charles Warren, Sergeant William Thick, nor for that matter any other detectives involved in the hunt for Jack the Ripper, with either Greek mythology or Geoffrey Chaucer. But hang with me for a moment and I'll make the connection. One of the main reasons the perpetrator of the Whitechapel murders evaded capture was that he left virtually no clues behind for the police to follow. In fact, in his entire reign of terror, just one clue was left. I shall come to that clue later on in the video. But why do we call a clue a clue? Well, it actually comes from the word clue, spelt C-L-E-W, meaning essentially a ball of thread or yarn, and this is where the Greek mythology bit comes in. According to Greek legend, Minos, the mythical ruler of the island of Crete, managed to offend the Olympian deity Poseidon, the god of the sea. In brief, King Minos, wishing to assert his right to the throne of Crete, prayed to Poseidon, asking that he send him a white bull as a sign of his support. Poseidon obliged, but on the strict understanding that Minos would sacrifice the bull as an offering to the deity. Minos, however, found himself enthralled by the sheer beauty of the bull from the god, and instead sacrificed one of his own bulls and hoped that Poseidon wouldn't notice the deceit. Now, had Minos taken the trouble to read a little Greek mythology, he would have known that trying to slip a crafty one past the gods seldom ended well for mere mortals. Man, oh man, could those gods take offence, a fact that didn't bode well for the mortal who'd managed to do the offending, since if there was one thing Greek gods excelled at even more than taking offence, it was meting out retribution on those who had given the offence. And it must be said, that retribution was seldom pleasant. Poseidon's revenge on poor old Minos was to enlist the aid of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, who caused Minos' wife, Pasiphae, to fall in love with the white bull, and having mated with it, she gave birth to a creature that was endowed with the head of a bull and the body of a man. This creature was given the name Minotaur. As the Minotaur grew, he or it developed an insatiable appetite for human flesh. So Minos imprisoned him or it in a vast labyrinth, created by the inventor Daedalus, the design of which was so cunningly intricate as to cause anyone who found their way into it to become hopelessly lost, and they would find it impossible to find their way out of it. Of course, the Minotaur had to eat, and so he was given a diet of criminals who were pushed into the maze for him or it to gorge on. As a result of a pact with the king of Athens, which didn't quite work out as intended, indeed it led to the death of Minos' son, Minos exacted a terrible punishment on the people of Athens in that every 9 years they were to pay a tribute of 7 youths and 7 maidens who were to be sent into the labyrinth for the delectation of the man-bull. 2 of these 9-year tributes had been levied on the people of Athens, and the third was approaching when Theseus, the prince of Athens, vowed to put an end to the practice by volunteering to be put on the Minotaur's menu in order that he could kill the creature and free his people from the need for future offerings. Aha, I hear you ask, but how was he planning to find his way out of the labyrinth once he had done the necessary deed? Well, since you asked, Minos' daughter, Ariadne, had fallen in love with Theseus, and she had given him a ball of yarn, which he tied to the portal on entering the labyrinth, and which he then unravelled as he picked his way through the twists and turns, or whatever it is that you find in a labyrinth that makes it so labyrinthy, in search of his soon-to-be deceased foe. Once the deed was done, and the Minotaur had been slain, Theseus and his merry band of former delectables simply followed the unravelled yarn back through the labyrinth and found their way out. Job done, problem solved, stroke of genius. There is much more to the story that you can find online should you so desire, but for now you're probably wondering what this has to do with a clue. Well, by the 1300s, a ball of yarn was known as a clue, spelt C-L-E-W. Geoffrey Chaucer references this in his poem The Legend of Good Women, which featured the story of Ariadne and the assistance she had rendered to her lover, vis-a-vis the provision of the ball of thread, and he included the lines, "By a clue of twine as he hath gone, the same way he may return anon, following alway the thread as he hath come." By the 17th century, the expression clue of thread Referring to Theseus using just such an item to find his way out of the labyrinth was used to describe any guidance that led to the solution to a puzzle, problem, or difficulty, and the expression meant quite literally that which points the way. As language evolved, words began to change their spellings, but not their meanings. Blue, for example, became blue, true became true, and clue became clue. Now, if you're listening to this rather than watching, that will not have made any sense to you. So quickly, each one was originally spelt EW before the EW became UE. By the 19th century, thanks to the emergence and popularity of crime fiction, a clue became fixed in the popular imagination as something that might lead to the solving of a mystery. Indeed, several other words that came to be associated with detection did and do hark back to the original meaning of clue as a ball of yarn. Thus, in detective stories, clues would be unravelled, threads would be followed, an investigation might have various strands, and a criminal who told a tall tale might well be spinning a yarn. Which brings me back to Jack the Ripper. Since the word clue has its origins with a ball of yarn or thread, is it not interesting that the only actual clue that Jack the Ripper left behind should have been the portion of garment, an apron, found in a doorway in Goulston Street, and that apron would have been made up of many strands that would have been spun from a Victorian clue? Is it not also intriguing that in recent months there has been a huge amount of press coverage over a shawl, again made up of threads and strands, that was supposedly found in Mitre Square alongside the body of Catherine Eddowes, on which it has been claimed that DNA has been found linking the shawl to Catherine Eddowes and Aaron Kosminski, and proving therefore that Kosminski was Jack the Ripper. This all despite the fact there was most certainly no shawl found in Mitre Square, and DNA has not proved that Kosminski was Jack the Ripper. In fact, the whole myth of the shawl and the DNA completely unravels when you examine the actual scientific and historical facts, and it has only received worldwide coverage because an author has managed to spin a yarn that the media has swallowed hook, line and sinker. To borrow from the great P.T. Barnum, when it comes to the Jack the Ripper case, as far as journalists are concerned, all you have to do is slip in the letters DNA and you'll find there's a sucker born every minute. And with that, I'm going back into the labyrinth. Toodle pip.